digital watch with the atomic clock.
I'm not too concerned about that personally.
It's because I don't want to miss a meal.
Kind of like watching grass grow, isn't it?
Watching water boil.
Patricia, is this pretty much everybody gonna be here? Then I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order 2 minutes early. Ultimately, we've got a couple of things to look at here. The first thing we're gonna look at on the agenda is, proposal to, let's see here, move a sign a little closer, is what it boils down to. Over at, Kwik, I think it's Kwik Stop, or is that
Kwik
right?
Trip.
Kwik Trip, I'm sorry. And, move it from 15 feet, out up to 5 feet, on Highway 120. And we got a recommendation. Well, to start with, is there anybody who, yes, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I'm John Webb with the city. I was just going to make just a quick introduction
Yes.
about the case. As you referenced, this is a request from Kwik Trip. We're excited to have them as a new development partner in the city of Denison. On your screen, the map is a location of the site. They'll be redeveloping the property immediately east of McDonald's on the north side of 120. The issue with this, and I pointed out on this slide, is the location of their monument sign. As noted in the staff report, the requirement, the ordinance is a 15-foot setback off the property line. That's generally to ensure that there's adequate separation between the sign and the street, the edge of the curb. In this instance, however, there is excessive right-of-way along 120. Typically, you'll see about 10 to 15 feet of parkway grass area behind the curb to the property line. In this instance, TxDOT has significant amount of right-of-way, about 40 feet off the curb, so that would push the sign even further back from the property. Again, this is a layout of their site plan. This shows the exact sign location from the property line. So on this graphic, I think, is an excellent example of showing how far the sign is actually from the curb line of 120. So with that, staff's recommending approval. This is a diagram of the monument sign. Mr. Chairman, I know representatives from Kwik Trip are here. I don't know if they want to say anything or not, but I do know they're here. Thank you. And do you have a staff recommendation for approval?
Ultimately, have you all had a chance to look at all the information? Yeah. And is there any discussion on that? Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Good morning, members. My name is, board members, my name is John Pimentel, address 1120 North Industrial Boulevard, Euless, Texas, 76039. As John said, we're excited to be here as well. We've had some success here in the northern part of the DFW, and I'd like to answer any questions you may have, if you have any.
Anybody have any questions, Ms. Youngman?
Is there an actual Kwik Trip going into this, into this location?
Yes.
Okay.
If they can get the monument sign.
Ultimately, is there any discussion? There's a recommendation that we go ahead and allow the movement of this sign from 15 to 5 feet.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the variance request reducing the required setback of the proposed monument sign from 15 feet to 5 feet located at 3101 West FM 120.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
With all that being said, can we go ahead and vote on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Looks like we've got a variance. Yeah, on the,
Ready to move to the
second
next
part of
item?
our agenda, there's a proposal here to, basically add a, let me get to my notes here, hold on a second. Add access to the main street when a house is built by way of a drive, not by way of a walkway or a walkway to the driveway.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, I'm
Yeah, just as a quick briefing, actually, this was brought up with the city council at a budget work session last week. We had a situation in the city where almost every builder in the city builds a sidewalk from the front door either to the front driveway. Most houses are front entry, as you know, and the builders will build, and I've got a graphic here showing, here's two different examples where there's actually a lead walk to the street, and then you'll see the lead walk actually curving from the front door to the driveway. Almost every builder does that, but we don't have a code requirement of that. So we do have some situations in the city where builders will take access off the rear alley and put the driveway off of an alleyway. Typically, they would then build their lead walk from the front door to the curb so people would have access to the mailbox, have maybe better access to bring the garbage container to the street. Unfortunately, we had a situation in the city where we've had some houses built where they did take access off the rear alley and did not provide a lead walk from the front door to the street. Actually, the resident rented this house, was out of state, did not know when they rented the house that they did not have a lead walk, and actually filed a formal complaint with us that they felt that it was not reasonable, it was unreasonable to have a house that they couldn't even walk down to the mailbox on this. Again, it provides for some access issues for life safety. Staff always is very cognizant about adding cost to the construction of a home. We believe, though, that this is a basic necessity, that this is an extra zoning code issue or an amenity, that this actually is a necessity for a person to be able to get from the front door to the street, as well for emergency access. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have the fire chief come up and make a couple of comments as well.
Thank you. Just wanted to kind of let you guys know on this situation, we went out there when we were presented with this scenario and attempted to simulate what we would do in an emergency, both medical and fire. And as you can see, the grade on the front, we literally had to use the hose to pull people up that grade. The alley access is restricted and not available to fire vehicle. It's limited availability to ambulance medical vehicles. And it would be a little bit tenuous because it may be available to medical vehicles today, but as spring progresses and things grow, it would not be accessible. There's 3 houses in a row. Our fire hose from the road stretching down the back alley will not reach the entirety of the second home and won't reach the third home at all. So we would have to have 2 fire engines with enough extra hose to get to that building. The other thing that it concerns the fire department is the addressing is off the front street. We typically go to the address as we're dispatched, and when it's inaccessible, it delays care, it delays our ability to fight fire, it creates an enormous amount of problems for us. Sometimes side alleyways and things are accessible, sometimes they're not. In this case, the way we would approach, we would literally have to circle the block, come down, turn around, catch the hydrant, pull up to the alley. So it's really, really, really going to delay our ability to provide emergency services. In the case of a medical situation in this scenario, the cots that we use to put patients on, they don't do real well across grass or rough gravel. They're just not designed for that. And therefore, medical personnel would have to come down to the third house, package the patient up, and probably just carry them a few hundred feet to get to the road to get them out. It's going to significantly delay medical care. And that's our concern from a public safety aspect. What would be, in comparatively speaking, a low cost to put some pavement in there to help us be able to access this versus the outcome if we do have a situation here. We've gone out here with 3 shifts and done this. We've put notes in a computer-aided dispatch system that we have so that if we get dispatched to this location, they know, hey, you're not getting there from the front. So hopefully that eliminates that issue of delayed care. But there's issues like this out there that we have yet to discover and are still discovering. And so that's kind of my part of this is if we could do something to prevent that, because as we grow, we're liable to have these that we just don't know about until we get there. And that's going to create a significant issue when we get there to something like this. So that's the public safety take on it. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you guys.
So in this scenario with this particular residence and this particular elevation of the lot, would you anticipate that the builder would have to put in some sort of steps and you guys would just have to traverse that as opposed to a trail that you've got here that's almost inaccessible?
Yes, sir. If there's actually some old steps to the left, you know, they're decayed, but if there were just normal sidewalk steps going to the front door, obviously we'd rather not have to traverse something like that, but if they were to put that in, we could get access to that a whole lot quicker than we can right now. I mean, that was steep enough that medical personnel won't go up there because they can't get a patient down, so they're out. Fire will go up there, but to be quite frank, if it's a little more robust firemen, they had to be literally pulled up that hill. So it's a bit of an issue for us.
Mr. Chairman, there's kind of a second part to this issue, and that is, you know, the driveway access being off the alley, which led to this issue where they provided, you know, vehicle access to the home via an alley. I think that's something the staff wants to look at in the ordinance going forward of, you know, is it always appropriate to have alley access from the rear? And maybe really encourage that we get back to more of the front driveways. That's a separate issue. That's going to be through the zoning and subdivision ordinance. Right now, our infill district encourages the use of alleys. However, I think somebody did not think it through on an unintended consequence when you have unimproved alleys. So when you have the access off of basically a dirt alley and then forego any front access. So that's going to be a second part that we're going to look at, is maybe go back and tweak the ordinance and look at the fact that maybe we really should get back to encouraging the driveways off the front of the street where possible, and that would alleviate that. But we're still going to have issues where there'll be improved alleys, and there'll be situations where it may be better to take access off the alley from a driveway. In that instance, you know, we do need that lead walk to the street. So
My understanding is that the city doesn't maintain the alleys any longer. It's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain their portion of the alley. Is that basically
yeah,
correct?
as you know, basically most of older Denison, those are older, unimproved alleys. They were just, you know, dirt, very, very minimum improvement from day one. And so we don't have the resources. If you've seen the condition of our streets, we had over 80 water main breaks during the freeze. And so we're doing just enough to try to keep up with our current infrastructure in the streets. We don't have the resources to maintain the alleys. And so typically on a new development, a new subdivision, a developer, if he wants alley access, would put in a paved alley. And we have standards for that for new development. Our new developments now are generally all front entry. Alleys are more expensive for the developer to do, but you're right, there's just not been the maintenance of these alleys.
I understand. Let me ask you a question. Would it not be a better idea to, the ordinance that we have to require a driveway to a home, would it not be better to require that driveway to the street proper and then maybe a walkway from the front door to the driveway and just update that particular ordinance and get these, and if they want to put an access to the back of the home, then, and it's not a problem, then I wouldn't see anything wrong with that. But I mean, would it not be better to update the ordinance on the driveways and bring them to the front of the home and bring them to the street?
And probably 99% of the builders do that. I think that's a great idea, and I think we want to go back and address the part of ordinance that where they are taking access off the alley versus the street. I just want to catch these instances where they are using alleys, and there may be situations where it may be the best idea to do an alley. I'm just trying to close this one small little gap in here where the very small percentage don't have a driveway to the street.
I understand, but again, I agree with you, but the only problem is the picture we're looking at right now, I can see 5-10 years down the road where it doesn't get maintained and the walkway ends up getting washed out and issues, creating more of a hazard in that particular area than it would be to put the walkway. And not to mention, it'd be a lot easier for access to the home if we did have something that would bring us all the way up. You know, I mean, a walkway, or the driveway, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think that if you're going to encourage infill and development into vacant lots, and obviously, these are extreme, they're not the norm, as you mentioned, that the majority of the builders are putting driveways from the front because the topography allows for it, the grading is minimal, the success of pouring a paved concrete driveway or whatever the city's requiring now, I'm guessing it's a concrete type pad there, that it's gonna hold up and perform as intended. These things are inspected, and the people that are doing this work are typically licensed or at least bonded, through the city to work on some of these issues. But in these circumstances, when you've got significant topography challenges and you're encouraging people to buy, build, and not only allow housing on these vacant lots, but bottom line, it improves the community and it adds to our tax base. I can see why a builder would balk at doing anything with a lot like that. If we're worried about a sidewalk washing out, I don't think that there's any less concern of thousands of dollars, multiple thousands of dollars driveway having the same concerns by the time somebody would cut in, grade, possibly put retaining walls on each side. It throws things out of whack from the building perspective as far as their expense. So, I mean, I think in these unusual circumstances, just to have some sort of ordinance to allow for a walkway for, first responders to access, the homeowner to be able to go down and get their mail. Your water meters are all here in the front. I mean, anything that they need to do typically would require them to come to the street at some point or another. So I think that requiring a driveway from every street location to every residence that's built is probably short-sighted in a good way, but I don't see that being effective with these lots that you're trying to develop and allow for growth.
Well, as you know, Denison, we're both kind of blessed and a little bit challenged with our topography. We have a number of development meetings with potential developers in the city, and it comes down to topography and drainage. That's why there's typically a reason why these lots are vacant, because they're challenged. We understand that. I think what staff is coming back is that this is just a basic livability factor. For somebody to be able, where the UPS person can make a delivery to get to the front door, I don't know what they would do when they'd pull up to the house like this. And again, I'm more concerned.
They love it.
Whether it's infill or whether it's the newer area of the Gateway Village, I think it's just some basic life safety issues that we're trying to kind of close that gap on. And again, this isn't a big problem, but it's a gap that I want to close this, and where no matter where you live in Denison, you have the same life safety factors applied to you and livability factors, and that's why the staff.
I would like to interject something if I can. I'm Scott Moody. I'm a builder here in town, and we've been very fortunate to have started over here about 4 years ago. We put about 40 houses in the infill district and built them. And I actually passed on these lots because when you drive by the front of them, you're thinking there's ain't no way, how am I going to do this? But I think there's accessibility and there's actually feasibility. Until you hold the builder's checkbook, it gets a little tough on some of these situations like this. And my question is, I have sold probably a dozen homes that people have bought the homes because of either side entry access, if you're lucky enough to score a corner lot, which we've done about a dozen of those. But I've had people that really have enjoyed the access from the alleys when they're obviously maintained. But there would be no way possible for less than $10,000 for me to put a driveway in front of these houses. It's not possible. Because you have the retaining walls, like you said. I mean, it would just be feasibly impossible. But accessibility from an emergency standpoint, I totally agree with that 100%. And so I was just wondering, if you took this situation, for example, there's 3 houses in a row here, because I know right where this is at. Would there be any, I'd just like to interject, just open to the table, the possibility of a lateral sidewalk that could possibly be co-opted with the city, like we do on some of the other old sidewalks. When we tear one out, they're allowing $17 per linear foot for sidewalks, which isn't enough. That's $3.34 a square foot, and I can't get it that cheap. But they'll co-op with us like 50% over on Maple Road. We were replaced 80 foot of sidewalks, I did, and they came in and gave us half of $17 a linear foot, which helped us with that expense. But if we were to have steps going up on this end street and have a lateral sidewalk to the road all the way down, I feel like I'm just throwing that out there, that would give access to the upper level up there where the actual grade is. And then having access, I agree, having access to these roads, or at least to the lateral sidewalk, because this is a totally different terrain than you'll find anywhere. This is, I could have bought these lots for $4,000 a piece, and I didn't take them, and I'm paying $30,000 for lots now. So it's just one of those situations where I just wondered if staff could consider in the future, just as you're coming from a builder, a possibility of doing a community sidewalk there, and us co-oping, we pay half of it.
And that's done. There are actually houses that don't front on a street. They front on green belts. And there, like you said, there's this lateral sidewalk that'll come out from the front doors, or you have your lead walk from the front door to this lateral sidewalk that then goes to the street. You've got to have an access easement, because then basically you're letting other people cross over your property. So in your scenario, the lateral sidewalk could be at the top of the hill.
Would be still, if that's easement. I don't know where the property pins are at on this, but I'm saying if that were easement, it'd be great.
Yeah.
And then that way the fire trucks could stop right there.
Where the
fire
steps
chief
are.
talked about the hose distance and stuff like that. That's obviously not in our expertise, but I would just, having, like we had to put, for example, we had to put lateral sidewalks in, and curb replacement in over on Bond Street this year. And it was kind of silly in a way, because I had to put the sidewalk back, but when it stopped, it just stopped into like a dirt. There was no way to continue that sidewalk unless you took out trees and every other kind of problem you'd have. And so as a builder, we're kind of with the liability of, okay, we're going to fix our piece of pie until they develop the rest of it. It would just be nice to have some continual development across there, even if it's a co-op situation with the city, to do such things.
So that's the issue, the public sidewalk, and I know we're going to go back and address that in the subdivision ordinance on where, right now we do have some leeway where they're not required to put in sidewalks if the sidewalks are not in the area. I do believe that if there were sidewalks, they need to be probably replaced, but in this instance, we're really talking about that private lead walk, on the private property that would attach. But as proposed, this would not prevent your scenario of that lateral lead walk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more discussion?
So this is not a retroactive deal, this is
No.
No, it's not retroactive. This is from
future development standpoint, someone's gonna have to look at the cost of putting in either a driveway or a sidewalk. If they were, and as you previously said, you're not gonna buy these because just the access is too tough.
I mean, I'm looking at $4,000 worth of steps right now.
Well,
Versus 10 for a drive.
5,000 for steps.
Plus you gotta go to the house.
And then you have to put the driveway in.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's where I was kind of going with the deal, is that, if we can, and if we're not gonna be maintaining the alleys, and we wanna get away from the alleys, then I was thinking if we could bring the driveway to the front and to the street proper, and then bring a walkway over to
Well, the driveway in the front here, just from these,
I know.
yeah, you're like massive expense of retaining
Right.
walls and stuff to keep that thing from caving in.
It's not
You'd have to
feasible.
cut it in
No,
right.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, these are very challenging lots.
Very
to say
challenging.
the very
So
least.
this percentage is what, 1%, 2%?
Yeah,
I mean,
this
so
is
I'm
very
just
rare,
thinking-
isn't it?
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, man, put the frickin' sidewalk in there, forget about everything else, because you're gonna have something that's very rarely comes up. And if that keeps you from developing that 1%, then, you pass on it anyway.
Right.
Is that a recommendation?
That's a recommendation.
Do we have a
So
second?
what is the
The
recommendation?
recommendation is put the sidewalks in.
Okay.
In a nutshell.
To approve the proposed local amendment is what you're
Yes.
suggesting.
So, we have a recommendation to install the sidewalks as an access to the property. Do we have a second?
Second.
We've got a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay?
He's an aye.
Okay. Looks like she's a passing.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your work today.
Thank you, we appreciate y'all.
Can't enforce it if you don't have the tool.
I'm sorry?
They can't enforce anything if they don't have the tool.
I agree, I'm with you 100%. I was just trying to get this deal set up so that we can get away from the rear entry. If we want to put a carport or something back there, so be it. That's not a problem. But if we're not going to maintain the alleys, then, I mean, we go ahead and put a driveway in, and you wouldn't necessarily have to have a walkway if the driveway connects to the front porch.
Yes, sir.
You could just walk right across the front porch over to the driveway. That's what I was headed with.
These are all
What
lot
most do.
Dependent, yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Just need a motion to adjourn.
Uh-huh.
Need a motion to adjourn.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Did somebody
We're adjourned. Thank you, man.